All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Tracey Noriega here, paying it forward to Melissa Wright. And this is Power to the PEEPS. PEEPS stands for Positive, Extraordinary, Everyday People Stories. And this is, one of those little brainchild or brain dump ideas of mine of we just need some good feeling stories out there with everything going on. There are people who are creating and getting out there and serving humanity in new and different ways. And we're all small fish in a big sea, and just wanting to pull them out and let you see them firsthand about who they are, what they do, and awaken you to different possibilities, shift some perspectives, and show you a different way. So I have here Melissa Wright, and she's of Trust Your Own Truth. And Melissa, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Definitely. I want to thank you, Tracey, for doing this interview with me today. It's definitely really great to have someone to talk to. I've been doing so many Facebook Lives, and it's definitely kind of a little bizarre to just kind of talk to my computer screen and not have someone else on the other side. So I'm really excited to have this conversation where we can kind of just bounce back and forth. So thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here with you today. And so I'm Melissa Wright, and I have been a coach since 2011. And I didn't plan to become a coach, but I always had a full-time job and always some kind of side business ever since I was 19 years old, and I did my first network marketing company. And I always had kind of just those first level of success in all the businesses that I attempted over my whole life, but never that kind of success that would let me leave my job, which for me, it was always really important for me to make enough money so that I could be home with my kids once, when I had kids. And then I was actually working in a company and had moved up to the IT department and had, almost doubled my income from the time that I worked for this company. When I was 7 months pregnant, they laid me off. And so I remember it was such a bizarre feeling because I'd never been fired before this. And it wasn't the performance thing. It was really just a money thing. So this was back in 2007, and I worked in the publishing industry. And, it was the time where everyone was starting to go digital and people weren't buying as many print books. So the company was kind of struggling. But anyway, so here I was, and they told me that I was laid off. And it's so funny because I had just made the decision that I was going to stay. I was going to put my kid in daycare because I just couldn't see how I could give up my income. And, at the time I was making more than my husband, and, had good benefits and all of it. And so I remember walking out of that building that morning, and it was such a bizarre feeling. I'd worked for the company for 7 years, and I walked out not really knowing where to go or what to do. But I remember feeling so relieved because I knew that I was getting ready to sacrifice what I really wanted most, which was to be that full-time mom and not have to put my baby in daycare. But so from that place of trying to figure out what to do now, and I had this awakening that that I had to do things differently. Like you said, I had to find a new way. I had to find that new perspective. And so I won't tell you the whole long story, but I ended up getting drawn into a law of attraction coaching certification. And I definitely did not come from a background where my family was into the law of attraction or anything that's woo-woo like that. My dad's an engineer. My mom was an elementary school teacher, and definitely we were not an awakened family. We were not in it at all. And so at first it was kind of challenging too, to kind of be in this world of the spiritual enlightenment path. And I kind of was afraid to admit that that's who I was. But so I'll fast forward a little bit, and I was pregnant with my younger son. They're 4 years apart. And when I was 4 months pregnant, my mom passed away unexpectedly. And for me, that was so excruciatingly painful. And but at the same time, I knew with the introduction I had to law of attraction that it was really important for me not to stay down in those more negative or lower vibrational emotions. And that I really wanted to give the baby that I was growing the opportunity to grow in as positive an environment as I could, so that my sadness and my grief wasn't going to set him off on the wrong tone in his life. And so for the first time in my life, I really let myself pull back from all of the pushing and working and business stuff I was doing, and cut back my hours at my job that I had at the time drastically. And it was really the first time in my life where I ever really gave myself the permission to take that space and time to focus on self-care and really get still and quiet and try to figure out what I really needed to be as happy and positive as possible. And it was so funny. So this was the first year that I really didn't work and didn't push hard and gave up pretty much completely on my business that I had at the time. And so when tax time came around the next year, I realized that it was actually the first year that my income was over six figures.
Oh,
That year that I worked less than any other year of my entire adult life, I made more money. And so when it didn't come from that working and pushing and striving and efforting and all of those things that I had believed in the past that I just had to work harder or try more, like, so for me, that was so life-changing to realize that the way that I'd been approaching life and business and money and success was wrong. And the other thing that really was a big catalyst too was realizing that my mom, she passed away. She had just had her 60th birthday. And I realized she'd never learned how to be happy. And I think for me, that was probably the hardest thing. And, I have four siblings, so she had five kids. And let's see, at the time she had six grandkids.
Wow.
No, I'm wrong. Anyway, she had a few. There's 10 of them now, and I'm like the dates. I don't want to spend too much time with the math here. I'm running on a lack of sleep this week, but I apologize if
no.
Would come out right. But and I just realized that I was really setting myself up to follow in her footsteps of sacrificing everything to be the mom that I thought I had to be and to be the wife that I thought I had to be, and to make money and contribute financially, and I realized that life is too short, that we're not guaranteed a tomorrow, and there were so many things that she'd planned to do that she never had the opportunity to do. She'd actually just gotten her passport, and she wanted to travel, and she did take one trip, and she had one stamp, but she went to Niagara Falls. So all of the places she dreamed of going when she retired. And so I just knew that when I got to the point where I wanted to pick a business again, because I knew I was going to, because I knew that the job I had, the full-time job, was not what I was meant to do. It was not fulfilling. It was not satisfying. It did not allow me to grow and really step into who I'm meant to be. And it didn't feel like I was making a difference in that job. And that's really something that's important to me too. But so I, from that place now where I'd learned to focus more on self-care and to do the things that really allowed me to tune in with that inner wisdom and inner guidance, then I found, ended up allowing myself to attend my first retreat. So this was something that was really hard for me too, right? Like, it was always easy for me to spend money on my kids, right? If they needed something, if they needed clothes, or something to make them happy, or to take trips so that they could have fun experiences. But it never felt like I could spend money on something that was just for me. I always felt too selfish, right? Like, if it wasn't for someone else, then it wasn't okay. And so I let myself invest in a retreat that was just for me. And granted, it had that, like, aspect of business that was part of what made it feel okay too, right? So it was an investment in my business, but really it was this amazing transformational retreat, which is exactly what I needed. And at that retreat, I was introduced to human design. And honestly, of all the things I've learned in my life, human design has been the most life-changing and transformational. Because in learning about my design, I'm a projector, and I know, Tracey, you're a projector too, and you can relate with a lot of what I'm about to say. But as a projector, I learned that projectors are only about 20% of the population. So 80% of the population has a different type than I have. And so all of my life, I had tried to operate like that other 80%. And it was so out of alignment with how I'm meant to operate as a projector. And it really cemented to what I learned during that time when my mom passed away, when I was focusing on self-care, that as a projector, my path to success comes from not working too hard and giving myself that time and space to be still and really tune in with that inner wisdom. And so,
well, you know, that's before, because human design is like huge. And I want to point out of your story you've shared, which is where a lot of people are at right now. I mean, I'm listening to you and it's like so many things, you know, that was the 2007, 2008 economy. I mean, COVID is its own new and never before lived thing. But I think it introduces a lot of the things that you said in that, you know, I want to point out and pull out to, you know, kind of even say to whoever's watching this is, you know, noticing you were following a path, like there you were getting that you know, the income at a place where you really didn't want to be at, but you worked yourself up to get there. And I hear that story so many times of people just, you know, hey, well, I got this far, you know, and now I've attained this, you know, whether it's a title or, you know, the benefits and the paycheck and stuff. And then you start, you know, you were willing at that point to make sacrifice of not being home with your kids so that you could continue to make that income. And then ironically enough, it got decided for you that that wasn't going to be what it was. And, just that you opened up, and I think that's something too. A lot of us, we then, you know, want to go right back to looking for a job that's going to get that same thing that we had. And you were willing to, you know, entertain a different way. And a big thing I heard of you that, you know, a lot of people come up against is, you know, you went a path that is so, you know, 180 from your family. And I'm sure they weren't always on board and thinking you were a little crazy for doing that. Yeah, but again, that's that following that intuition, following your heart's desire and such, and seeing it through. And had you not done that, you wouldn't have gotten to that retreat, which you still were kind of rationalizing as it has business in it. So I can write that off. And then yet now you found human design, which is now what you teach. And, you know, I got to be exposed to it. I didn't learn about it until April when you kind of, in our community, women, well, just business people, but it is primarily women, introduced it and kind of dropped that one on us. And that's where, because you were just getting into that about 80% of the population, all this stuff. And it is human design, just so you guys know, if nobody's heard of it, it is quite amazing. And for me, I learned so much in your challenge that you did earlier this year, of just like how much about myself I wasn't even cognizant about. And like how you were saying, you know, learning of your human design, about how we try to show up in the world because this is what we're being told. And yet that's not our innate way of being. So if you want to try to somehow, I'm going to trust that you can synthesize what is human design for all those newbies out there. And I still consider myself, I just put my toe in the water with you during your challenge last time so that people know about it and just, you know, kind of maybe get their curiosity piqued about what is human design and how can that work for me, about what you're talking about designing your own life and living, you know, the dreams that you want to.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. So human design, it can be challenging to find the right words to express it because there's so much involved, um, and definitely I don't want to like overwhelm you with too much at first, but basically, essentially, human design, it shows you how you're naturally designed. And we all have two parts of ourselves. We have the part of ourselves that is our personality, that part of us that is how we see ourselves. But we also have another part that's more on the subconscious level, and it's how we're actually designed to operate. But oftentimes we don't recognize those traits in ourselves. Other people that know us well, like if when you find out what your traits are in your human design, then other people would be like, oh yeah, of course that's your genius. Of course you're really amazing at that. But like, we're like, really? Like I don't see that in myself. But but in human design, what it does is it teaches you both parts of yourself, the part that you do like identify with and resonate with, and that part that is really who you're meant to be, but is harder for you to recognize in yourself. And it helps you to bring both of those sides together and kind of marry them together so that you can be the fullest expression of who you are. The other really amazing thing that human design helps with is we each have our own unique ways of accessing our body's wisdom. So through human design, you can learn the way that your body speaks to you. And it's different for all of us. And even people that have the same type, that, the same strategy for knowing what their body is telling you, because it tells you what's correct for you and what's not correct for you. And all of us have a tendency to want our minds to steer the ship or drive the car, right? So our mind wants to be the driver of our car. And so the way I like to define or describe human design is that like your type, and there are four different main types. Your type is like the style of car that you're driving. And, some of us can go faster than others, and some of us are like a little bit slower and like different pace, and not that you need to try to be a different type of car than you really are, but really learning to appreciate and live into the design that you're meant to be, because each style and each type has its own advantages, and they all have their own challenges too. But the most painful thing is when you think it'd be better to be a different type of car than you are, and to try to be more like that. And that's where life gets really painful, when you're trying to be what you're not. And then we also have an authority, which, is what tells us what's correct for us too. So human design helps you with decisions, and it helps you with all decisions in your life to know what's actually correct for you. But most importantly, what's going to keep you moving in the direction that you're meant to go? What's going to lead you to the path of becoming who you're meant to be and experiencing your type's signature emotion? And those signature emotions, and it's different for each type, are success, satisfaction, peace, and delight. So maybe even just by listening to those four, you'll have one that like really resonates for you.
So how, in your challenge that you're going to be starting, and everyone, that's Monday, that's this Monday that she's going to be starting, how so that people understand how you're going to introduce it to them, and how they get to work through this whole process just to get acquainted.
So the challenge, it's broken up into little small chunks to make it really easy, so that I know we're moms and life is crazy. You're probably like juggling, maybe working from home, or maybe you've gone back to the office and you have your kids home. And so it is broken down into small chunks for over 5 days. And I'll walk you through learning about each of the pieces, the key foundational pieces of understanding your human design, so you can know with full certainty what decisions are correct for you, that are going to lead you in that path, that's going to bring you the most fulfillment, success, and satisfaction, and all those other things that I mentioned. And so we have a private Facebook group where you will get access to all of the daily prompts, and there's little small fun activities to help you really to integrate the lessons for each day. And there will also be some opportunities to ask questions if anything feels overwhelming. But yeah, so basically that's what we're going to do. We're going to go through your human design and how you can make easier, more confident, guilt-free decisions that are going to be best for you and ultimately best for your family. But from that place of not only letting yourself do it for, if it's good for your family, but really making sure that you are putting on that oxygen mask first, like they say in the airplane, right? Where you are really coming from that place of being deeply rooted in who you are and not trying to be someone else or trying to be like someone else. And also through that, you're going to understand your kids better and how to support them in starting their life from a place of living in alignment with who they are and their true design, so they can avoid a lot of that pain that we've all experienced and feeling like we weren't enough or that we had to be something other than what we are. And so that's where it really gets exciting for me too, is just knowing that the ripples that are going to come from this and the how much happier and more successful our kids are going to be because we've learned about our human design and how to live our design and how to honor our kids' designs as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I never got to do, Ruben's daughter joined us on that first challenge, and I know she was just like kind of blown away by, oh, this makes so much sense. That's why I'm this way and nobody understands me. Which I want to point out to people before you join on Monday, one of the more important pieces that you do need to have ready, so if you need to go and dig that up, is your, as in astrology, having your birth time, your date time and the city that you were born in, because I knew that you then give them a website where they can put all that in and they pop out your human design. Yeah. So that is something for everyone to know, to have that information for themselves. And, one of the pieces I think you touched on that I've been speaking into a bit, doing lives and just, this whole mental health. Everybody is at home and we're all, with a lot of fear, and the unknown, which just incurs more fear, and just all these variables that, and of course, all the things that are happening in the world as far as, politics and race, and even now, natural disasters that are going on. It just seems like a world in which, like, wow. But one of those things I've been talking into is about that self-care, which self-care is synonymous with mental health. And then the fact that it's not even just your mental health, it's a holistic approach. And I think that's something else that you show with human design, is that honoring of yourself, and all of us getting back into getting into our hearts instead of our heads so much. I believe that's one of the biggest, benefits that your program does show, and just gives that little bit of a, wow, this is why, it's been so hard for me to show up in the world like this, because I thought I needed to be XYZ, and I'm really LMNOP, So.
And I think that's self-care is the interesting topic to bring up too, right? Because I think often as moms, we can even get pulled into like, we have to do self-care, right? Like, oh, like so-and-so said that if I do this meditation or if I go to this yoga class or like that, everything should be good. But in truth, like self-care is very unique and individualized too. So really not doing self-care because it's another should, or it's another thing that you've added onto your endless to-do list that like needs to get checked off, or that you feel guilty if you don't stick to like the things that you should do. But yeah, so human design too can help you to even figure out what self-care actually supports you and not just something else to feel bad about.
Yeah, so many, yeah. And I love that that's what you're about, is like having a guilt-free, just approach. And especially, yeah, when it comes into the parenting realm, that's been a big, I would guess, well, a big lie that we get told, like, if you want to be a good parent, then you sacrifice yourself for your kids
Mhm.
and you make all these sacrifices for them. And while I understand, there's a bit of, yes, family first and all that, but like you said about the oxygen mask,
Right.
why did they keep saying that? Is you got to put it on first, or you can't even reach over to your kid to get it on. So, and
Yeah.
that's every day. And right now, I think it's even more so because we're just so stressed out with everything and this being inside and cooped up and everybody in the same space, not getting to do the things that they normally do and feeling like, I mean, I know we're all feeling like we're getting told no a lot. You can't do this and you can't do that.
Yeah.
And, all of
And
our,
who
it,
knows how long it's going to be like this?
yeah,
There's so
no,
much
but
uncertainty and
no one
discipline.
would have thought it was this long. I mean, really, it was like, oh yeah, in the fall, and here we are, So yeah, and I think that's the other thing I would like to drive home too is like, you know, the fallacy of going back to normal. That's not going to happen. And they talk about the new normal, and that's where we get to make a choice. We get to choose. I know it feels like we don't get to choose a lot because we keep getting told no, and this isn't possible, and that's not. But in reality, well, in reality, in the yeah, in universal law, we can create our
Mhm.
reality. And I know that I stumble on that too because we get so caught up in the world around us. And I think that's another thing where human design helps you to, intuit and get in here because the answers really aren't up there. That's,
Right. Right. Yeah. And like I mentioned too, the analogy of the car, right? Or
mhm,
and your mind wants to be the driver of the car. Your mind wants to like decide where you're going to turn and how fast you're going to go. But really, for all of us, none of us, our mind is never going to be the thing that helps us define that right path. And
mhm,
our mind is designed to be the passenger of the car.
yeah,
So your mind is an amazing tool and it has all kinds of opinions and thoughts and like able to like strategize and find the
yeah,
logic. But the path to your true fulfillment and your true authentic self-expression doesn't come from logic and it doesn't come from figuring it out. And so learning to let your mind become the passenger and
mhm,
just sit back and relax and notice what it notices and look out the window and like,
mhm,
have its thoughts and come up with the patterns that it recognizes and have those insights, but not have that be what's driving your car and making the decisions for you. And that is the key to really being who you're meant to be.
mhm.
And then,
Well, well, and you just said that, and that's like the basis of mindfulness, right? It's
yeah,
like, your mind is, as you just said so eloquently, it's a tool, and
yeah,
we're supposed to use it, but how many times does it use us, or we allow it to, and we allow it to drive when it really should be the passenger, but it's usually the backseat driver that wants to tell us where we need to go instead of
mhm,
really trusting ourselves that,
yeah,
I don't need you to tell me. I actually do know where I need to turn and that I just need to keep on keeping on. So, and yeah, that again, with mindfulness, that awareness and breath and self-care of just taking those time outs so that you can get out of your head. Because when you're in there, oh my God, it's just, yeah, monkey mind, monkey madness
mhm,
going on. And, you just, yeah, it's utterly chaotic.
right, yeah,
Which a lot of us have projected in our houses, right? Right now,
right.
this is us. So, okay, well, I'm going to
So
put
I
up
would love
here.
to hear
Yeah,
before you stop. So
yeah.
like I know that you were one of the people in my first round of decisions by design, and so I would just love to hear from you. Like what do you feel was the most valuable thing from doing just that decisions by design challenge?
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so one was finding out that I was the projector, and that was like what, 20% of population or
Mhm.
something. So already knowing that, sometimes I already feel like I'm kind of in the minority as far as the way I think and approach things. But was really interesting for me was uh, that when you were talking about the authority and like where that comes from in your body, and I've learned that in mindfulness of, you know, listening and tuning into your body, like where are emotions coming from and where are, you know, when you're feeling tense and you're getting those triggers, you know, it's either for me like my jaw's getting clenched or I feel my throat, you know, going on, these different things that happen to you. But you brought out this whole other thing, which I was like, I never even thought of that body part, which was the spleen. I was like, my
Mhm.
spleen? Really? Like, you know, sorry, spleen, I overlooked you. You know, I think about my liver and my kidneys a lot more because what I've done to them. But but that is where the kind of intuitive hits come
Yeah,
from. I mean, everybody has their heart in the sense that, you know, our heart knows, but when you get down to what your type is and that spleen, and that it's very, very subtle. And
very
when you
subtle.
pointed that out when I was doing the challenge with you and how those things look, I was like, oh my God, there have been those times where I didn't realize that's where it was coming from, but I heard it or I felt it, you know, it kind of passed through, and then I like kind of discounted it. I was like,
Mhm.
what the hell was that? And then later it came to fruition. I'm like, God dang it. But it seemed so lofty or so, what was that?
Right.
And then that was it. But so yeah, I've been practicing more of, yeah, that tuning in heart and, you know, going, all right, spleen, what do you got to say to me? And when it is something weird, I'm just like, okay, I'll go. And I've done that where it's like, I don't know why I'm pulling over this way, but I do. And then, you know, it'll kind of come up later why that had to happen, or I gave somebody a call or reached out or did something. So yeah, that has been for me the biggest thing, is you know, getting a relationship with my spleen. So
Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah. All right, people. Well, down below is where you can sign up and find out more about the challenge with Melissa. That starts again this Monday. Please have your dates and times and where you are born and all that stuff. And if you sign up beforehand, she can get you your human design out and look at that. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be great fun for anyone who decides to do it. And why not do it? I mean, I want to say this too, because Melissa's really understanding in that way. One, she chunks it up into little pieces. I can attest to this. So there really are doable pieces. But we do know that life happens. And, you know, if you've got kids, then you've got a whole bunch of other variables in there. But that, you know, you can still show up. You can still show up and you know, and do the work and just be present. And you know, if you have to miss a day, you've got it in a Facebook group, right? Is there anything
Right.
else you want to
Yeah.
like let people know to encourage them to not feel like, oh, I don't know if I can commit to 5 days? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, it's free, okay, people. So
It is, yeah, and I designed it intentionally to make it easy, and so yeah, and the recordings are there, and it's not like you only have 24 hours or like, um, and then I do leave it open too for a little bit, and I do eventually take down, you know, the videos that we do and the comments that are in there before I bring in the next round of participants, so that like your privacy stays private, and you know who's seeing what you're posting and what you're sharing, and then you don't have to worry about like other people in the future that might see that you're not aware of. So that's one of the things that I do as well. And it's an amazing group of people that are doing this, who are on the same path of feeling like there's something more in their life, but not quite sure how to pursue that, or how to find it, or and so yeah, the people that have been in the challenge are amazing people, and I'm sure that you're going to also make
yeah.
some amazing friends too. And
Yeah,
yeah.
and learn something about yourself. It's self-discovery, and yeah, it's accessing a different way. And yeah, I look at that as, you know, if you're, you know, I know I've hit those points where I'm just like, I know there's something different, but I don't know what it is, and you don't know what you don't know. So, you know, I invite everyone here, if you have any kind of curiosity, it might be your spleen talking to you, or
Mhm.
or another part of your body, but there's absolutely nothing to lose other than, you know, your barriers and
Right.
and probably misbeliefs that you don't
Yeah.
need to keep on keeping. So you
Yeah,
can,
and all that pain of trying to be who you're not.
yeah, yeah. So yes, if you'd like to discover more about yourself, please, people, go and the link will be too in the Facebook group to do that. And they can find you at Melissa Wright, your personal page as well, anywhere else. And then that's your website. And are we missing anything for anyone to find you?
I think that's good. I don't want to like make it too confusing, but yeah. For the
All right.
DVD, that stands for Decisions by Design, and that's at trustyourown.truths.com. That's my website. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to know you and helping you to get to know yourself.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that's another thing, people, when you're in her group and you get to be in their live, she gets to talk to you right then and there. And if you can't get in their live, you can leave your questions and whatnot, and she'll always speak into it so that you can watch the videos later and get the feedback that you need about whatever questions you have. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. This has been great and
Thank you.
had fun. Yeah, thank you. And everyone else, please stay happy, healthy, positive, and know that there are peeps out there who are looking to help. So you are not alone. And, just open up to the possibilities because there's more than what they tell us there is out there. Okay. So thank you again, Melissa. And thank you, everyone. All right. Cheers.